Let me slow this down and really walk you through this. Because this part right here separates boys from men. When a man is truly attracted to an older woman, the first thing that happens inside him is not desire, it's awareness. He becomes aware that he's dealing with a woman who has already lived, already learned, already paid some emotional dues. And that awareness immediately changes his behavior. He understands that casual energy won't survive here. He understands that shortcuts won't work. So without anyone asking him, without her demanding it, he starts to step up automatically. See, stepping up doesn't begin with grand gestures. It begins internally. A man checks himself. He thinks before he speaks. He measures his words because he knows this woman listens with discernment, not hope. She's not filling in blanks anymore. She's not romanticizing potential. She's watching patterns. And a man who's attracted to her feels that pressure, not the unhealthy kind, but the kind that says, if I want to be here, I need to be real. He stops wasting time. That's the first shift. Men waste time when they're unsure. They drift when they don't value what's in front of them. But with an older woman, he senses that time is sacred. He knows she's not waiting around to be chosen. She already chose herself a long time ago. So if he wants her attention, he brings intention. He doesn't disappear for days. He doesn't send confusing signals. He doesn't show up halfway. Because he knows halfway effort gets you nothing here. And what's interesting is nobody has to teach him this. He just feels it. Her presence sets a standard. Her calm sets a standard. The way she doesn't rush conversations. The way she doesn't overshare. The way she doesn't try to impress him, it all sends a message. It says, I'm complete already. And a man who's attracted to that doesn't want to disrupt it. He wants to earn space in it. So he becomes more consistent. He does what he says he's going to do, not because he's afraid of losing her, but because inconsistency feels embarrassing around a woman who knows herself. He realizes quickly that excuses sound childish here. That I forgot doesn't land the same. That showing up late, unprepared, or unfocused doesn't slide. So he tightens up, he sharpens himself. He starts planning instead of winging it. He doesn't just say, we'll see. He doesn't keep things vague. He sets dates, confirms plans, follows through. Why? Because he knows uncertainty is a luxury she doesn't entertain anymore. She's lived long enough to know that confusion is a choice, not a mistake. So if he brings confusion, she won't argue, she'll exit. And a man who's attracted to her feels that instinctively. Another thing happens when he steps up. His communication changes. He speaks clearer. He listens more. He doesn't interrupt her experiences with his ego. He understands she's not impressed by surface-level charm. She's seen charm before. What catches her attention is substance. So he slows down, asks better questions, and actually absorbs the answers because he realizes she's not just talking, she's revealing how she moves through life. And here's the part people don't talk about enough. When a man steps up for an older woman, he also checks his emotional availability. He doesn't come half-healed. He doesn't dump unresolved baggage at her feet and expect nurturing. He knows she's not here to fix him. She's not auditioning to be needed. So he does some internal work. He reflects. He becomes more accountable for his past choices because he knows she can see right through denial. He becomes intentional about how he treats her emotionally. He's more careful with her heart. Not because she's fragile, but because he knows she's strong enough to walk away the moment she feels disrespected. And that strength commands respect. So he doesn't test boundaries. He honors them. He doesn't push limits. He observes them. Stepping up also shows in how he presents himself. He takes pride in who he is around her. He does show up sloppy, careless, or unmotivated. Not because she demands perfection, but because her presence inspires elevation. He wants to match her level. He wants to feel worthy of her time. So he improves himself naturally, his mindset, his discipline, his direction. And let me be clear, this has nothing to do with age and everything to do with energy. An older woman carries a grounded energy. She's not chaotic. She's not desperate. She's not loud about her worth. And a man who's attracted to that does to want to bring chaos into her space. He wants to bring value. So he asks himself, what do I add here? That question alone makes him step up. He also becomes more protective of the connection, not possessive protective. Does he play games with jealousy? Does he create insecurity to feel powerful? He understands that emotional safety is what keeps her engaged. So he is transparent. He is honest. He doesn't hide behind ambiguity because he knows she's not guessing. She is observing. Another sign of stepping up is patience. He doesn't rush intimacy. He does pressure her. He understands she moves when she feels secure, not when she's persuaded. So he allows things to unfold naturally. He respects her pace. He does confuse access with entitlement. Because he knows attraction does. To give him ownership, it gives him opportunity. And what really separates this man from others is that he does not feel threatened by her independence. He does not compete with her success. He doesn't diminish her accomplishments. He celebrates them because stepping up means recognizing that her strength does take away from his. It challenges him to grow. A man who attracted to an older woman does, to want to dominate her. He wants to stand beside her. He also becomes more emotionally mature in conflict. He doesn't shut down. He doesn't explode. He doesn't run. He communicates. He takes responsibility when he's wrong because he knows she values accountability over pride, and he understands that silence and avoidance are deal breakers here. Stepping up means he doesn't breadcrumb her. He doesn't keep her in limbo. He understands that her life is full, and if he wants to be part of it, he has to be clear about his intentions. So he defines the connection. He doesn't keep things undefined for comfort. He knows that ambiguity benefits only the person who fears commitment. And the most important part of stepping up is this: he shows up even when it's inconvenient. Not just when it's easy, not just when it feels good. He understands that consistency during discomfort is what builds trust, and trust is the currency of a woman who's already learned the cost of broken promises. An older woman doesn't need a man, but she chooses one who adds peace. And a man who's attracted to her steps up because he knows peace is rare. He knows maturity is rare. He knows a woman who knows herself is rare. And rare things are never handled casually. So when you see a man stepping up without being pushed, without being reminded, without being begged, understand that he recognizes the value in front of him. And he knows that if he doesn't rise to meet it, someone else will, or she'll remain perfectly content without him. When a man is genuinely attracted to an older woman, one of the clearest signs is how deeply he respects her boundaries. And this doesn't come from fear or control, it comes from understanding. He senses very quickly that this is a woman who has already learned the cost of ignoring her own limits. She has lived through moments where she stayed too long, explained too much, gave more than she received. And she decided at some point that she would never do that again. That decision shows up in her energy before it ever shows up in her words. A man who is drawn to her feels it immediately. He notices that she doesn't overextend herself. She doesn't rush replies. She doesn't feel the need to justify her choices. She doesn't apologize for needing space, rest, or clarity. And instead of feeling challenged by that, a man who is truly attracted feels grounded by it. He understands that boundaries are not walls meant to keep him out. They are filters that reveal whether he belongs there in the first place. So he adjusts. He doesn't push. He doesn't test how much he can get away with. He doesn't see her limits as obstacles to overcome. He sees them as instructions on how to treat her. And that awareness immediately separates him from men who are only interested in access. Because men who only want access always try to negotiate boundaries. Men who value connection honor them. He becomes careful with her time. He doesn't assume availability. He doesn't get offended when she says no. He understands that her no is not rejection, it's discernment. She's not withholding to be difficult. She's choosing intentionally. And a man who respects her boundaries understands that every yes she gives has weight because it's not handed out casually. He also respects her emotional boundaries. He doesn't force vulnerability. He doesn't rush intimacy. He doesn't pressure her to open up before she's ready. He understands that trust is built through consistency, not urgency. He knows that her heart has depth, and depth requires patience. So he allows silence. He allows pauses. He allows her to reveal herself at her own pace. What's powerful here is that he doesn't confuse confidence with coldness. He understands that her calm is not distance, it's self-regulation. She doesn't react emotionally to provoke connection. She doesn't chase reassurance. And instead of trying to pull emotional reactions out of her, he meets her where she is. He becomes more emotionally intelligent because he knows immaturity stands out quickly around a woman like this. A man attracted to an older woman respects her standards even when they inconvenience him. If she says she doesn't tolerate disrespect, he watches his tone. If she says she values honesty, he doesn't hide behind half-truths. If she says she needs consistency, he doesn't disappear and reappear expecting access to remain the same. He understands that boundaries are maintained through behavior, not words. He also respects her physical boundaries in a way that feels natural, not forced. He doesn't rush touch. He doesn't assume familiarity. He doesn't confuse attraction with entitlement. He understands that just because there is chemistry doesn't mean there is permission. And that restraint actually deepens attraction because it signals self-control, something an older woman recognizes immediately. Another thing that happens is that he stops trying to impress her with exaggeration or performance. He understands that she has seen enough life to recognize authenticity. So instead of overpromising, he underlines reliability. He doesn't inflate who he is. He lets his actions speak because he knows that she is not impressed by potential, she is grounded in reality. Respecting boundaries also shows up in how he handles disagreement. He doesn't invalidate her perspective. He doesn't dismiss her feelings. He doesn't gaslight or minimize. He listens even when it's uncomfortable. He understands that her voice matters and that emotional safety is non-negotiable for her. So he learns to communicate without defensiveness. He becomes more mindful of language. He avoids sarcasm meant to sting. He avoids jokes that cross lines. He doesn't weaponize vulnerability because he knows that once trust is broken with a woman like this, it's not repaired through apologies. It's repaired through changed behavior over time. And some bridges, once burned, are never rebuilt. A man who respects an older woman's boundaries also doesn't try to rescue her. He doesn't assume she needs saving. He doesn't step into a fixer role. He understands that she has already saved herself. What she wants is partnership, not dependency. So he offers support without control, presence without possession. He doesn't question her need for space. If she pulls back to recalibrate, he doesn't panic. He doesn't chase. He doesn't guilt her. He trusts that if the connection is solid, space will not break it. And that trust strengthens the bond instead of weakening it. Respecting boundaries also means he doesn't bring chaos into her life. He doesn't overshare drama. He doesn't unload unresolved issues without accountability. He understands that peace is something she has worked hard to create, and he is not entitled to disrupt it. So he checks his emotional hygiene. He becomes aware of what he brings into her space. He also respects her past without being intimidated by it. He doesn't compete with her experiences. He doesn't feel threatened by what she's learned. He doesn't ask invasive questions out of insecurity. He understands that her history shaped her wisdom, and her wisdom is part of what attracts him. So he listens instead of interrogating. There's also a quiet confidence in how he respects her independence. He doesn't need to be needed. He doesn't get offended that she has her own life, routines, and priorities. He understands that her fullness is not a threat to him. It's an invitation to add, not subtract. So he finds his place without forcing it. He doesn't blur lines to his advantage. He doesn't keep things ambiguous so he can benefit from flexibility. He understands that unclear intentions violate emotional boundaries, so he is direct about what he wants and what he can offer. He knows that honesty is a form of respect, even when it risks rejection. And what's important here is that this respect is consistent. It's not performative. It doesn't disappear once he feels secure. It doesn't fade after intimacy. He understands that boundaries don't expire. They are not temporary rules to follow until comfort is established. They are permanent standards. A man who is attracted to an older woman respects her boundaries because he respects himself. He knows that self-control is strength. He knows that patience builds trust. He knows that forcing access destroys connection. And he understands that a woman who knows her worth will never negotiate it for attention. So he stays aligned. He stays mindful. He stays intentional. Not because she demands it, but because he recognizes that her boundaries are the very thing that makes her attractive. They reflect clarity. They reflect self-respect. And a man who truly sees her understands that crossing those lines would mean losing something rare. This kind of respect is quiet but powerful. It doesn't announce itself. It shows up in small decisions, daily behavior, and consistent restraint. And an older woman recognizes it instantly because she knows the difference between a man who tolerates boundaries and a man who honors them. When a man is genuinely attracted to an older woman, what pulls him in is not the number of candles on her birthday cake. It's the energy she carries. It's the calm, the groundedness, the sense of self-possession that radiates from someone who has lived, learned, and survived. That kind of peace is magnetic because it's rare. Many people spend their lives chasing experiences or accumulating things, thinking that will impress someone, but peace, real inner peace, cannot be manufactured. It comes from trials, reflection, and self-acceptance. And a man who's drawn to an older woman immediately recognizes that he's in the presence of someone who has mastered a level of serenity that others often only chase after but rarely find. He notices how she carries herself in everyday life. She doesn't rush. She doesn't panic over the small stuff. Her energy isn't reactive, it's deliberate. And that steadiness comforts him. For younger women, sometimes life still feels chaotic. Uncertainty is more common because experience hasn't taught restraint yet. But an older woman has been through storms, and she has come out the other side with composure intact. That tranquility is not boring to a man who understands it. It's rare, it's grounding, and it's attractive. He feels like he can finally breathe around her because he senses that she isn't going to create unnecessary drama to validate her worth or his attention. She exists fully without needing constant reassurance, and that is incredibly compelling. Her peace doesn't mean she's passive or unambitious. Far from it. It means she has perspective. She doesn't overreact to minor slights or let her emotions dictate her decisions. She can be passionate and vibrant, but it's always balanced with thoughtfulness and restraint. That balance fascinates him. He can see that she understands her priorities, that she's clear about what matters, and he feels drawn to the way she navigates life. He senses that her calm comes from experience, from understanding that life isn't about controlling everything, it's about responding intentionally. That's a lesson many men never consciously articulate, but they feel it. They feel the difference between chaos and composure, between someone who is restless and someone who is grounded. And the older woman's peace signals that she has reached a level of emotional literacy that commands respect. When he is around her, he notices that she doesn't seek validation through constant attention or approval. She doesn't overshare her feelings to create attachment. She doesn't require dramatic gestures to feel secure. That sense of emotional self-sufficiency is rare, and it draws him in like a magnet. He knows that being with her isn't about inflating her ego or managing her insecurities. It's about connecting as two whole people, neither of whom is incomplete. And for a man who has experienced relationships built on neediness or dependency, this is a relief. He recognizes that the peace she carries is protective, but not exclusive. She protects her energy and her space, not because she wants to be unreachable, but because she values herself enough not to settle for anything less than genuine connection. He also sees the way she interacts with the world. Her demeanor with strangers, her patience with challenges, her ability to handle disappointments gracefully, all of this signals that she is at peace with herself. He notices that her confidence is quiet, not showy. It's not about being the center of attention. It's about being grounded enough to occupy her own space without needing validation from others. That's magnetic because many people mistake noise, flash, or dramatics for power. But real strength, real allure, comes from the inner calm that can withstand turbulence without cracking. He instinctively wants to be near that, to learn from it, to contribute to it without destabilizing it. A man drawn to her peace recognizes that it's a reflection of emotional maturity. He sees that she has faced disappointment, heartbreak, failure, and perhaps even betrayal, and she has survived without bitterness consuming her. That survival has created a presence that is steady and reassuring. He doesn't feel the need to fix her or rescue her. He doesn't feel intimidated because he recognizes that her life experience has made her secure. He can relax around her because she doesn't demand constant proof of loyalty or affection. Her energy communicates safety, And that kind of safety is rare in any human interaction. A man who values peace over drama feels drawn to it immediately. Her peace also manifests in her expectations. She doesn't expect perfection from him, but she expects honesty and integrity. She doesn't need control, but she expects respect. And when a man sees that, he understands that engaging with her is not about impressing her with material wealth, charm, or shallow displays. It's about being genuine, being present, and being consistent. Her calm teaches him that attraction is rooted in reliability and authenticity rather than superficial gestures. That realization often shifts his behavior without anyone instructing him. He adjusts naturally because he wants to match the energy she carries, to become a man who can exist harmoniously in her world. Another way her peace draws him in is through her clarity about life priorities. She knows what she wants, and more importantly, she knows what she doesn't want. That clarity is magnetic because it eliminates confusion. Many relationships falter because people are still discovering their own desires, and that uncertainty creates tension. An older woman has learned to listen to herself, to honor her own needs, and to communicate them. He doesn't feel lost or second-guessing because her boundaries and priorities are clear. That transparency reduces anxiety and builds trust quickly. He doesn't have to decode mixed signals or guess about her moods. That is liberating for a man who is serious about connection. Peace also shows in her resilience. He sees that life has tested her, and she has endured challenges with grace. He witnesses her ability to respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively, and that inspires him to elevate himself. Her calm is not passive, it's active strength. She handles difficulties with wisdom, and he realizes that he wants to be a man capable of contributing to that stability, not undermining it. Her presence encourages him to cultivate patience, self-awareness, and consistency in himself. He becomes more mindful of his own actions, his own words, and the energy he brings into her life. Her peace is also contagious. When he is around her, he feels lighter. He doesn't feel the pressure of constant performance. He doesn't feel the weight of unnecessary drama. He feels encouraged to slow down, to reflect, to consider the impact of his choices. He sees that she doesn't waste energy on unimportant conflicts or petty grievances. That perspective shifts his own mindset. He begins to approach challenges with more equanimity, realizing that life's turbulence is inevitable, but how you respond determines your peace. That sense of calm is a lesson in itself. And he is drawn to it not just for attraction, but for the way it inspires him to grow. The peace she carries also communicates trustworthiness. He knows that because she has been through life's trials, she discerns character quickly. She doesn't need to manipulate or test people because she trusts her intuition. He respects that discernment, and he adjusts accordingly. He doesn't try to deceive her or misrepresent himself because he knows she will see through pretense. That honesty deepens his desire to align with her energy, to be worthy of her trust, and to maintain the harmony that she naturally brings into relationships. He also admires how she manages relationships outside of romance. Her friendships, professional interactions, and family dynamics all demonstrate boundaries, respect, and balance. He notices that she doesn't compromise her values for approval. She doesn't cling to people who drain her energy. That observation reinforces his understanding that she is selective, intentional, and mature. Being in her presence challenges him to be selective and intentional as well. Her peace creates a mirror effect, showing him what it looks like to live with dignity, patience, and self-respect. Her calmness also allows space for vulnerability without chaos. She doesn't react excessively to emotions, and she doesn't weaponize feelings to manipulate or test him. He feels safe to be himself without fear of overreaction. That security is incredibly attractive because so many men have experienced relationships where vulnerability was met with judgment, anger, or confusion. With her, he feels encouraged to be authentic because her peace provides the stability needed for honest expression. He realizes that intimacy here is not about drama. It's about connection, trust, and alignment. Furthermore, her peace communicates freedom. She is free from external validation, societal pressures, and unnecessary obligations. She doesn't need a man to define her value, and that freedom paradoxically draws him closer. He sees that being with her is a choice made for mutual respect, not dependency. Her energy challenges him to reflect on his own life and ambitions. He begins to appreciate stability and maturity in ways he may have overlooked previously. He wants to rise to meet her level of self-possession because her calm isn't just attractive, it's aspirational. Her energy also communicates emotional consistency. He knows that mood swings, impulsive reactions, and unstable behavior are unlikely. That reliability is magnetic. He feels relief because he doesn't have to walk on eggshells, guess at her emotions, or worry about hidden agendas. That kind of stability is rare, and he recognizes it immediately. Her presence reduces stress and fosters a sense of safety, allowing him to experience authentic connection without the fear of chaos disrupting the relationship. Her peace extends to her ability to forgive without forgetting lessons. He observes that she doesn't carry grudges unnecessarily, but she also doesn't allow repeated disrespect. That balance teaches him that mature relationships are rooted in understanding and accountability, not revenge or resentment. He respects the equilibrium she maintains between compassion and discernment. That balance inspires him to adopt similar principles in his own life, enhancing his emotional intelligence and maturity. And perhaps most importantly, the man is drawn to her peace because it offers him a glimpse of what a sustainable, loving, and healthy partnership looks like. Her calmness signals that she is capable of love without chaos, intimacy without drama, and partnership without neediness. He recognizes that being with her is not a game or a casual experiment. It's a chance to build a connection grounded in trust, respect, and harmony. The understanding elevates his approach, guiding his actions, decisions, intentions. When a man is genuinely attracted to an older woman, he understands instinctively that words alone are not enough. Compliments, promises, or declarations of affection mean nothing if they are not backed by consistent action. This is not about performing or putting on a show. This is about demonstrating reliability, accountability, and integrity. An older woman has lived long enough to know that charm fades and that intentions without follow-through are meaningless. She's experienced people who said all the right things and then did the opposite. She's learned that talk is cheap, but actions reveal truth. And a man who truly wants her knows this, and he proves himself through what he does, not what he says. It begins with presence. A man who is serious will show up not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. He won't leave her wondering whether he's truly invested. If he says he's going to call, he calls. If he says he's going to be somewhere at a certain time, he is. He understands that her life is valuable and that her time is not to be wasted. The consistency of his presence tells her more about his intentions than any grand speech ever could. And he knows that if he falters here, she won't simply wait around or make excuses for him. She respects herself enough to demand reliability. And a man who is attracted to her knows that proving himself starts with showing up, even when it's inconvenient or uncomfortable. Proving himself through actions also means taking responsibility. He doesn't blame circumstances. He doesn't make excuses. And he doesn't shift accountability onto her. When he makes a mistake, he owns it immediately. He doesn't try to minimize it, deny it, or argue over perception. He understands that accountability is the foundation of trust, and trust is the currency required to build any meaningful connection with a woman who knows her worth. She's already been around long enough to spot avoidance and deflection, and she has no patience for it. A man who proves himself doesn't just apologize. He corrects behavior. He demonstrates change, not just remorse. Actions speak louder than words, and he knows that her respect is earned through consistency and follow-through. Another aspect of proving himself is consistency and effort. He doesn't only show up when it's easy, convenient, or fun. He shows up when it requires patience, discipline, and self-control. He understands that sustaining attraction is not about occasional gestures or sporadic attention. It's about daily, intentional behavior that reinforces his reliability. He doesn't disappear when things get complicated or when life demands more from him. Instead, he stays committed, he communicates clearly, and he demonstrates through his actions that he values the relationship, her energy, and the emotional investment she brings to the table. Proving himself also means respecting her standards in real time, not just in theory. He doesn't agree with her rules and boundaries for the sake of appearance. He internalizes them and acts accordingly. He respects her emotional needs, her personal space, her professional and social life. He understands that her independence is not a challenge to be overcome, but a gift to be honored. Every action he takes is filtered through the lens of respect. He doesn't try to manipulate, charm, or coerce her. into lowering her standards. Instead, he matches her level of integrity and self-respect, demonstrating that he belongs in her life because he can operate on her terms. The way he communicates is also a reflection of action. Words may initiate conversation.